Part of our Simple Solar series, one video we've been asked for a lot is how do I make a solar powered shed or a solar powered workshop? Well, we've built exactly that, and today I'm going to take you through it step by step. Hello, welcome to English Country Life. Welcome to the cottage on a glorious spring sunny day. My name's Hugh, and together with the fantastic Fiona, I run this small holding here in rural Lincolnshire, and we're trying to be as self-reliant as we possibly can. So over the years, what we've done is we've done things like we've taken our heating off grid, we've taken our cooking off grid, we've learned to produce most of our own food. We don't only have chickens, but we breed chickens. We create our own seed for the vegetables that we grow. We make our own furniture, polish, all that kind of stuff. Something we've been dipping a toe into over the last 12 months or so is producing our own power. And we started small, and I'd advise anyone doing the same to start small. So we learnt, for example, to create a very small system to charge a phone, to power an electric fence. And we've gradually got bigger, and we're now able to have sort of portable systems that we can use for camping or for power tools up the field, etc. But today we're going one step further. We want to take all our outbuildings off-grid, solar power them. And that includes my workshop, which has got some massive power tools in it. And we even want to be able to do things like cut our firewood, use our enormous log splitter, totally off-grid. So as well as being eco-friendly and cheap by having sort of firewood for our heating, we can even cut it and split it in a sustainable way using our own power. Now, we have in the past used these portable power stations. We've used some from a company called AFERY who've helped us out with this video. And honestly, as great as they are simply not big enough for this project. So we spoke to them, and we've got their absolute top size unit to power our off-grid outbuilding setup, our off-grid solar workshop, if you like. And what I want to do today is talk you through how we sized our setup, how we worked out how big we want it to be, the types of components that we're using. We've bought a lot of those components, how we've put the whole thing together, and how well it's working. So let's get started. Before we bought any components, we needed to be able to size what components we needed, i.e. how big and how powerful they needed to be. And in order to do that, we needed to consider three things. What was the most power-hungry tool that we were going to use? How long were we going to use it for, and therefore how much total power would it draw? And how quickly did we need to be able to recharge the system? So we looked, all these kind of tools have got little plates on them that tells you how much power they draw. So this is a mains electric chainsaw, and this draws, it says, 2000 watts. So there's the first game. Yes, it does. But when you first start the motor, it draws far more than that, very briefly, just to overcome inertia to get the blade spinning. Compressors do the same thing, so do a lot of other power tools. So you need to have enough capacity to accommodate that surge. We looked across all our tools. My pillar drill draws 750 watts, my chop saw a lot more. But the most power intensive ones we have are the mains electric chainsaw, and even more so our big 11-ton log splitter. And what that taught us was we wanted at least 3600 watts of power. And that's really as much as you can get out of a single phase domestic socket in the UK. And I wanted full capacity. Now that really cut down my choice of components quite a lot. Next thing is, how much power do you want to draw over a day? And that's measured in watt hours. And what does that mean? Well, if this draws 2000 watts and I run it for 2 hours, that means I need 4000 watt hours. But you don't run a chainsaw constantly. You're picking it up, putting it down and making a cut and picking up the logs. So we use some smart plugs to actually monitor how much power we use. And in a day's logging, I needed just over 3000 watt hours of power. And that would let me cut as much timber as I'm comfortable cutting during a day. So I know I need 3600 watts of output and roughly the same number of watt hours. The third point then is how often, because I need to be able to recharge it from solar. So let's say I put 1000 watts of solar panels on my system, and I think I'm going to use it all year round. So in the winter I'll get 8 hours of sunshine, so 8 hours, 1000 watts of solar. Will that give me 8000 watt hours of input? Not a chance. At best, I find that solar panels are putting out about a quarter in winter of their maximum rated power, particularly on overcast days. So if I want to be able to fill up my station, let's call it, for the sake of easy maths, I want to be able to recharge 4,000 watt hours over 8 hours. I need to be able to put out a total of 500 watts an hour, bearing in mind that that's running at worst case 25% of the rated capacity of the panel. So I need to be able to take 2,000 watts of panels in order to get me 500 watts on the worst overcast wintry sort of days, which over 8 hours will completely recharge the units. Now that's the specification I want. With you, if you're just recharging a few battery power tools or something like that, you just want a few lights and you're only going to use your shed once a week, you're going to need far less total watt output, you're going to need less storage, and you're certainly going to need less solar input. But doing that kind of maths really lets you understand the system that you need. Right, let's take a quick look at this unit, the AFERY P310. I want to show you what it can do, and then we'll show you how we set up to charge it and to set it up in the workshop. There's a few big chunks of stuff on here that are quite important. For me, the USB, less important in a workshop setting, but I might want to charge my phone, etc. What it is important for if I ever had to use this in a power cut scenario. And what I want to see is a good variety of USB sockets, and that I can put out 100 watts of USB. And there's a USB-C socket on here with 100 watt output, which will power all our laptops and that kind of thing, no problem at all. And that's really important to me. There are two 12 volt sockets. And again, I will find them useful in the workshop because I use a 12 volt chainsaw sharpener, which is great because I can sharpen my chainsaw if I'm out and about and I hit a nail in a log or what have you. It also means I can use that same sharpener in the workshop without messing about. We've got three 3-pin plugs at the bottom, and that's great, and I can put out up to 3,600 watts, which, as I say, runs the biggest tools that are run on a normal domestic supply. There is as well a sort of charging control on the front, and you might think, well, why would I want to turn down the speed of charging? But in the summer, when that sun is high, it's actually better for the batteries to charge it more slowly. So you can turn it all the way up in the winter when the sun is weak, then turn it down in the summer so that you don't kind of like over speedily charge your batteries and ruin their life. We'll take a quick look at the screen as well. The screen tells you everything you need to know. It tells you how much power is going out. It tells you how much power is going in. It tells you which of your circuits are switched on, because when you turn on using something like a power station, the 3-pin sockets, you say, I'm going to use them. Running that inverter draws a bit of power, so it's better not to have any of the sockets turned on unless you're using them. That's all you need to know about the front. Let's look at the back. Let's take a look then at the back of the unit. What have we got to see here? Not so much, but there is a light. I'm not going to use that in the workshop, but if I was to take this for a big frame tent camping, that could come in handy. Here's your major inputs. You've got mains input, so you can charge this whole unit up quickly from the mains if you need to. There's the solar input. It takes a standard XT type input socket, which you can connect up with an adapter to almost any kind of solar panel. And you've got an overload protection. So all of that, pretty standard stuff. This is what I wanted to point to, and I know it doesn't look very exciting. You can plug extra storage into this unit, and that is vitally important for me. This unit, with 2 extra batteries, I believe could run everything in the cottage for at least 24 hours. I'd love to try it, but I've got to get hold of some more batteries to do that. But if you're going to buy a unit of this size and power, the ability to extend the storage, I think, is incredibly, incredibly helpful. It also has an app that allows you to control all sorts of functions and features of this unit. And again, you may not think you need it, but the ability to turn it on and turn it off at particular times and regulate things can become important if you use it hard as we intend to. This is one other thing that I want to point out. If you're going to buy one of these big units, get something with an extendable handle and with wheels. This unit weighs 40 kilos or 88 pounds for our American friends. It's a beast. The handle stows away neatly, It's got feet on the bottom and on the back, so you can stand it up when you've got the handle out, or you can lay it down. It seems minor, but it's really important. So we've talked about how we're going to store and return the power. What about the panels? Well, the panels, if you hadn't noticed, they're right up here. They're on top of our log store because it's a great place to put them. Panels are cheap these days, right? I'm using 400-watt panels here. There's 4 of them, 1 on each bay. I'm probably going to put another one on the end. I buy them from a company called City Plumbing. They've never heard of me. This isn't sponsored or endorsed, but oh my goodness, they're cheap. I paid 50 quid each for these enormous 400-watt panels, and that's delivered. Now, I don't think they've still got this model, but they've got other similar models at a very similar price. Can't recommend them highly enough. Absolutely brilliant. As I say, not sponsored, not endorsed, just like their products, and they're really cheap. And that's the point. If you're going to do one of these solar shed, solar workshop setups, give yourself plenty of solar capacity. Let me show you how we put these together, how we wired them, how we got the input into the shed. So these are these bargain panels, and I really like them, but they are big and heavy, so it can be a 2-person job. Now, to fit them, you need brackets. There's all kinds of different sorts. I'm going to use these little simple offset brackets that bolt onto the frame, but there's ones designed for slate roofs and tile roofs and flat roofs, and you can name what you want and attach the panel in the way that suits you. Unfortunately, the brackets don't line up with the slats on our crates because that's just Murphy's Law, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is measure up, and I'll cut to size some battens, and then I can attach the battens to the panels and then the battens with the panels onto the crates. Now, I thought, why don't we do this as a dry run? So I'm using all the power tools plugged into the AFERY P310. Just as it will be inside the workshop once we've got the solar panels set up, and it's working brilliantly. That's a powerful chop saw, but here I am using my router to make some cable grooves, a sander in order to sort of tidy up the edges so that they don't snag on the cables, and honestly it performs flawlessly with a whole variety of tools plugged into it. Once I've done that, we're going to put the whole panel, and as you can see it's now screwed down onto those brackets with the battens, and with 2 of us we can maneuver them on top of the crates, get them into position, and then I can fasten the whole lot down. And I must admit, I even recharged my drill driver combination from the P310, and as I say, it works brilliantly. With that done, what I'm going to do is connect all the panels up in series, kind of daisy chaining them effectively. And once all of that is done, I've got an array. Now, with 4 panels, 4 crates, I've effectively got 1600 watts, but we can extend that later. And now I've got to connect them up to the workshop. To connect my panels up to the workshop, I'm going to need 1 very long lead from the far end of the panels, 1 very short lead from the near end of the panels. Now, I could buy commercially made leads, but honestly I prefer to make my own. It's cheaper, you get exactly the right lengths, and it does what you want it to do. Our panels come terminated with these very common MC4 plugs. They're a push-fit connector with a male and a female component, and when you push them together they lock in place with 2 flanges that prevents accidental separation. Each plug has 4 components and they're really easy to put on. What I'm using is a 6mm core cable, and I'll strip the insulation off one end, and then using a specialist crimping tool, don't worry, they're really very cheap to buy, I will crimp the core of the plug onto the insulation, touching that stripped end, and then assemble the plug around that core. And honestly, there's not much more to it than that. They do up loosely with your fingers, but they generally come with some specialist tools that allow you to really tighten those plugs out, keep them nice and watertight, and any dust and debris out of the plug. Once you've done that, you want to put the opposite plug onto the other end of the cable, and it really works in a very similar way. It is worth making sure that you spend a little minute just as familiarising yourself with the components, because the 2 liners are slightly different. You want the right liner in the right plug. It's a mistake you only make once. When I made the leads, what I've done is connect them to a breaker and the breaker to the P310. Never connect or disconnect live cables from your device. And then I'm able to check it. And look at that. We're getting nearly 850 watts on a spring day. So it's not truly winter, and it's a nice bright day, but we're already getting more than 50% of the total rated capacity of our solar array in March. The cables then are brought into the workshop on MC4 plugs, and those MC4 plugs connect to the breaker, and I'm making sure the breaker is in the off position. We mustn't connect live or disconnect live cables from the device. The other side of the breakers also goes to MC4 plugs, and then there are MC4 plugs to an XT90 charging cable. What that means is I can connect the cable to the AFERY P310, but by swapping which charging cable I'm using, I could use other devices. The XT90, I'm just checking which way up it is, goes into the back of the AFERY P310, and all we have to do to get things charging is go at the breaker box and make the circuit, switch the breaker box on. If you're looking at the front of the AFERY, you'll notice it takes a second or two, and then the input power starts to spool up, and it does take a while, but this actually gets up to around about 700 to 750 watts on this particular day. I have to say the AFERY P310 and these panels from City Plumbing have been a joy to work with. Normally I sit at the end of these videos and I will talk about complaints I've had with products, but everything in this has worked exactly as it should. Now, I've not got wide experience of these very large power stations, but certainly this P310 has done everything I want it to do. It charges well, it's run a whole variety of power tools, it's also run a whole variety of domestic appliances, because we wanted to check it against that as well. And here's one thing, what I have been able to do with it is to run my pillar drill, my fan heater, my lights and my radio all at the same time. I'm just showing it running the fan heater here, and if anybody's ever worked in a concrete floored outbuilding that is completely unheated in the middle of winter, they'll know what a joy it is to be able to have free power to get some heat in there. That's a whistle-stop tour of our solar-powered workshop. No, I haven't got into infinite amounts of details, but there's a comments box down there below. If you want to know how to make your own cables, if you want to know how to mount a solar panel, if you want to know more about power stations, if you would like to see me wire this up with our own batteries, our own inverter, our own charge controller, I'm really happy to show you that as well. I wanted to go as simple as possible to start with, because a lot of people wanted a solar powered workshop, solar powered shed, and I wanted to show the easiest ways of achieving it. But there's a lot more that we can cover, and honestly I believe power independence is going to become increasingly important in years to come. And I think for me, and I hope for other people, you know, learning a bit about it, going step by step through it and learning to manage it so that we can continue to live the life we love is really important. If you've enjoyed today's video, can you spare us 5 seconds? Give us a thumbs up down below. Do leave us comments on anything else you want to know, and we'll try to make more videos in this series to explain the things you're interested in, as we have with this video. And if you want to see those videos and everything else we produce, hit subscribe down there and the bell icon next to it. It's a totally free service, but you'll be told every time we upload a new video. For today, thanks for joining us. Come back and see us soon. Take care.